right, so we are back. Oh, okay, all right, we didn't have to fix anything. So we're back here on the GSMC football podcast for the final part of the show. We'll get into the Saquon stuff. So I did give my predictions for the NFL honors. So I said, Lamar Jackson, I think will get MVP, which I think you would probably agree with that.
Oh yeah.
Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey. Offensive rookie of the year. It's close, but I guess CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Um,
It sucks that Puka can't get
yeah,
it. I feel like in a lot of years he could have. He had a very deserving
mhm,
season for it. But I mean, it's just the way the NFL is. You kind of
yeah,
have to give it to the quarterback. And Stroud was great. So he does deserve it as well.
mhm,
Just thinks that Puka
yeah,
also deserves it, but he's not going to get it.
yeah. Because I did talk about how, like, even with the MVP, like, it's the quarterback usually gets it. I mean, this could have been the year that the quarterback doesn't get the MVP, but it
Mm.
still seems like that's going to happen. Okay. See, the toughest one for me, because I really haven't paid attention to a lot of the rookies on defense. Defensive rookie of the year. I don't know, like, if you have like a clear favorite for that. Um,
I definitely lean fairly strongly in one direction.
mhm.
I think it should be Will Anderson Jr.
Okay.
I think that, when you look at the two of them, Jalen Carter was phenomenal to start the season.
Hmm.
He comes out the gates wrecking stuff.
Yep.
Everybody's like, how did we let this guy
Yeah.
fall to nine? I think it was
Hmm.
where he went to
Hmm.
the Eagles. This
Yep.
is ridiculous. I mean, he was a monster. He had seven quarterback hits in the first 8 games. He had 4 sacks during that stretch as well,
Hmm.
but sort of dipped off down the end of the season, just 2 quarterback hits and 2 sacks in the last 8 regular season games. My and he's great, and I think that he's
Yep.
going to be a very good player for a long time. So I'm not trying to discredit him or anything, but I think that the key difference for me between these two guys is just the ability to stay on the field. Where even going back to Georgia, Jalen Carter wasn't really a 3 to 4 down guy. Like he was having to come off the field a lot. I don't think it, I mean, he's a monstrous human being,
Yeah.
obviously. So
Right.
hard to lug all that around with him, play in and play out.
Hmm.
But Will Anderson, he's just so much, he's at a position, obviously defensive end as opposed to interior lineman, where, you have a little bit more flexibility when you're on the inside based off of personnel groups that go out there. But I mean, I just thought Will Anderson's trajectory through the course of the regular season was just on the up and up. He was incredible to me. Um, Again, positional difference here, but he had more QB hurries, more quarterback knockdowns, more pressures, more sacks, more
Hmm.
tackles. And he was third in the NFL as a whole, not just with rookies, in pass rush win rate. So, two stud defenders here, but I would give the edge to Will Anderson Jr. here, even though I think Jalen Carter might end up winning it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because also the other name I mentioned was Devin Witherspoon of the Seahawks as well.
Yeah. I love Witherspoon too.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah, because
great.
I brought up the pick six that he had against the
Yeah.
Giants on that Monday night, so that was fun to watch.
Yeah,
Him
no,
take that 100
he's
yards.
also incredibly fun to watch.
Hmm.
This was such a good cornerback draft as a
Hmm.
whole.
Yeah,
And it was really interesting the way, because like as a Patriots fan, I'm like, oh yeah, we got Christian Gonzalez.
yeah,
He is the one. I can't believe we got him this late.
yeah, and he ends
And
up getting hurt.
yeah, he ends up getting hurt. I still think he's going to be great as well,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Did he ever
really,
come back?
no, he didn't
Oh,
end up
so
coming.
okay.
I mean, it was a lost season too, but it's
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
Deontay
yeah.
Banks?
Deontay Banks. Yeah, no, he's
He
turning
had a
into
pretty good year
yeah.
too for
Hmm.
the Giants. So a lot of cornerback talent in this past draft as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then so then there was Coach of the Year. I mean, you could. I mean, it's either. I think it's going to come down to either D'Amico Ryans or Kevin Stefanski. I mean, you could definitely make a good argument for both sides. Um, I mean, I guess. I think I said D'Amico Ryans. But like, what's Kevin Stefanski had to deal with this year? I mean, you lose Nick Chubb, five different starting
Mm,
quarterbacks. I mean, your offensive line, you dealt with some injuries there too. I mean, and they made the playoffs. I mean, that was unbelievable. And then you look at the
yeah.
Texans. Nobody expected them to win the division and win a playoff game. I mean, they did that. They are way ahead of schedule. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be one of those two, it seems. I think I said D'Amico Ryans. What are your thoughts on that?
Like you said, both two very, deserving candidates here. And D'Amico Ryans is like the surprising team. I mean, the Rams I also thought were very surprising in the fact that Shanahan wasn't, or sorry, McVay wasn't even a finalist, I feel like is slightly
Yeah.
criminal. Not that he should have won it,
Hmm.
but I feel like he deserved to at least be
Yeah,
a
because that's
finalist
another
here.
team that people really didn't expect the Rams to do anything with, how the rosters changed from the Super Bowl year. I mean, on defense they aren't as loaded. Stafford coming off of injury, Cup coming off of injury, but the fact that they found guys like Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams to be a part of this team going forward. I mean, listen, and they got Sean McVay, who's a great head coach. I mean, the Rams are going to be a team that's going to be good next year if they could, fix the defense and maybe another weapon on offense as well, possibly. This team is going to give people problems next year.
Yeah, a ton of youth that they were dealing with. And like you said, they're two experienced veterans, basically plus Aaron Donald,
Right.
but
Yep.
the two guys that were really there for their Super Bowl run a couple years ago, everyone else was pretty much gone.
Yep.
And, that was the gamble that they took when they went all in on that season. And it looked like, I mean, I think when they made all those moves, they were prepared that this could get pretty grim for us in the coming years. But I think it speaks to the coaching. Raheem Morris was their defensive coordinator last year. I think he's an excellent hire for the Falcons. The way that he was able to also elevate that defense with all the youth that they had. And again, I don't think that McVay, that's also just sort of how like coach of the year never works is really the best coach in the league every
Yeah.
year because there's a little bit of a voters fatigue there, I feel
Yeah.
like, with a
Hmm.
lot of these coaches because, Belichick could have won it for how many years during
Yeah.
his career.
Right.
And, you know, I think that, but for me, I would pick Stefanski for this.
Hmm.
D'Amico Ryan's also
Yeah.
another guy that
Hmm.
overachieving team, lots of incoming new centerpieces. But like you said, just with all the injuries to quarterback to stay afloat the way that they did, I think this was a big year for Stefanski
Yeah.
because I didn't love the fallout and everything that came with the way that they treated Baker Mayfield and
No.
sort of I think there were a lot of questions about Stefanski going into this year. And I thought that he did a really excellent job of, even when they had Watson, he wasn't great for them. And then he
Yep.
finally has a good game and he's out for the year. So, they went through a roller coaster this year and still ended up being a playoff team that I think a lot of people had too as dark horses.
Hmm.
Obviously, end up losing to D'Amico Ryans and the Texans. Joe Flacco sort of turned
Yep.
into 40-year-old Joe Flacco at the
Yeah.
end.
Yep.
But
Yeah. We didn't see any January Joe in that playoff
no, we
game.
did not.
Well, at least like maybe like the first quarter of the game, first quarter and a
Yeah.
half. But that was really all we saw of
Hmm.
that. Okay, and then finally, comeback player of the year, and it's it's gonna be Damar Hamlin, and I have no problem with that at all. I mean, I talked about it. Just again, we go back to that Monday night game, and it's something that we've never seen before. And again, the credit to the Bills medical staff and the fact that he was able to recover. I mean, I remember just constantly like looking for updates and just
Hmm.
getting the positive news that he was being responsive and showing signs of improvement. That was unbelievable. And the fact that he was able to get back to this point, and again, didn't play a ton this year, but still, like the fact that he was able to get back on the football field is unbelievable. So it's well deserved that it's going to be him. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I sometimes NFL fans make me so angry
Yeah,
because you just get upset about the stupidest things.
yeah,
They, a lot of people are in the camp that Damar Hamlin doesn't deserve it because he didn't,
yeah,
play play well enough when he was on the field. He was a special teamer. But we're talking about the comeback player of the year award here. this has never been some
No.
extremely prestigious award
Yeah.
before. And I think it just goes to show, I mean, you're a baseball guy too.
Yeah.
Literally this past year, we had Liam Hendricks win the
Yep.
Comeback Player of the Year award after coming
Hmm.
back from cancer.
Yeah.
And it was very much celebrated in the MLB
Yeah.
community.
And
He
it's like the
pitched
polar opposite in the NFL.
yeah. Because we want to give, and Joe Flacco himself, I forget what interview he was doing, credit to whoever it was, but
Yeah.
he was talking about what did I come back for
Yeah.
from old
Yeah.
and being on a roster. Like
Hmm.
this guy literally had his heart stop beating
Yeah.
on the field. And I mean, it takes guts to come back the way that Damar Hamlin did.
Yeah.
Was he the most impactful player in the league? No. Were there other good stories that, if there wasn't this case of Damar Hamlin, like sure, Flacco or Baker would have been some
Yep.
intriguing stories, but I mean, just celebrate life, literally,
Yeah.
because that's what it is with Damar
Yeah.
Hamlin. And I feel like NFL fans just love to get worked up for the sake of getting worked up.
I mean, it goes with a lot of things. I mean, what we just talked about for most of the show is the Chiefs. You know, it's just like everything. There's there. I mean, it's really with people in general. They're always just looking for things to complain about. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you with Damar Hamlin how fragile like life is. I mean, it really just makes you reflect on that. I mean, listen, you could talk about Flacco and what he was able to do, and Baker Mayfield. Listen, so happy for Baker that hopefully this is his new home, and he could
Yeah.
be that the Bucks franchise quarterback. Um, but Damar Hamlin deserves this award, whether you like it or not. So, yeah. So let's kind of now pivot to what the fourth segment was going to be about, which I was going to do by myself, but again, Zoom gave us an issue. Is Saquon Barkley, as we'll kind of go past when I typically end the show, just because we spent getting your thoughts on the NFL honors, is where he can end up. So it seems like the Giants aren't going to bring him back, and for me, like I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, I don't really have as much attachment to a lot of the players like I used to. Um, I'm kind of fine with them moving off of him, especially because it's the running back position, and we see how these guys have been aging. I mean, we're not going to see the days of Adrian Peterson and Marshawn Lynch in our lifetime anymore. It seems like we're moving away from that because it seemed like those
Derrick
guys were
Henry was like the
Derrick
closest
Henry.
we
Yeah,
really can
exactly.
get to
Yeah,
him.
and he's still looking to. I think in the right situation, Derrick Henry is still going to be productive. But again, it's got to be the right situation. Um, we're moving away from that. And I was looking at an article on Bleacher Report. Some of the teams they listed: the Ravens. Um, I know the Chargers maybe were looking to make a push at him. Um, Saquon Barkley could definitely end up in a better situation next year, and I think he should. I know it didn't go the way he wanted it to last offseason because the Giants prioritized bringing back Daniel Jones. But for me, I mean, the Ravens, they have some question marks at the running back spot. I mean, you see guys getting injured every year at that position for them. So that would be a good fit. A team that loves to run the football, except in the AFC Championship game. Again, the Chargers could be a possibility, because we'll see what happens with Eckler. And obviously, the Chargers have a lot to deal with their cap situation. So that could also be a good spot. He's definitely going to have a lot of options. So I want to. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you see Saquon potentially going?
Yeah. I mean, to your point about the Giants, I think that it is probably the natural parting of ways between them because I think that the Giants just have other areas they need to invest money into
Right.
because this is a guy in Saquon that hasn't been very healthy through the course of his career. About 50% of his years, he's been dealing with injuries one way or another. And, the Giants don't have the offensive line to really be giving $10+ million to this guy in Saquon Barkley that we know the talent that he has, but he is probably best utilized elsewhere. I think that Ravens would be scary if he ended up
Oh
there. I
yeah.
mean, that would be some sort of combination. The way that I mean, we saw, the lack of the run game in the AFC Championship game for the Ravens was disappointing, but even still, Lamar and was when they were having some success moving the ball, he was checking down a lot to his running backs. He was incorporating his running backs in the run game there. I think Gus Edwards had a handful of big catches. It was Justice Hill, the one that
Hmm.
had the catches in that
Right.
game. But I also think that, you just mentioned the team of the Chargers. This is a team that Harbaugh is taking over after a handful of years at Michigan, where sort of a big part of his initiative was building up a run game, making a quarterback friendly scheme. And Herbert's a better quarterback, obviously,
Oh
than
yeah,
anybody
100%.
Harbaugh has had at this point. But, Herbert has, for as much talent like on paper that the Chargers have had, it's been a lack of production for them. And I'm aware that Saquon is still a little bit of this injury risk, and that's
Yep.
another team that they could. I mean, they had some injuries on the offensive line too.
I
So,
mean, they've been trying to rebuild the offensive line for 10 years, since the
yeah,
Super Bowl.
seriously,
So it's,
I could
that's,
see that. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Saquon is probably more suited for a championship contender
Right.
this year. I think that that's probably where his head is kind of at. I'm curious what the open mark is going to look like, because the Chargers are another team where I'm sure that they'd like to bring him in, but they're in a lot of cap trouble
Yeah.
themselves. So I'm curious the direction this is going to go, if Saquon is going to head more towards the big money, or if he maybe wouldn't mind doing like a stopgap year with a contender and proving his worth, because I think he was extremely valuable for that Giants playoff run a couple years ago. And I think that, he helped elevate the play of Daniel Jones and the offense as a whole, and sort of put that year together the way that it was.
Yeah. No, listen. I can't disagree with anything you said. Again, like for me, it just goes like if he leaves, I'm not going to be devastated by it. I mean, I'd like to see the Giants, build this roster up and get this team to be more respectable. And it looked like, they won the playoff game against the Vikings last year, and you thought, okay, they're ahead of schedule. Let's see what happens this year. And, from the first game against Dallas, which I've said, that was the game, how that game would go, that was going to dictate the kind of season they had. And losing 40 to nothing, I'm like, this team is not going to be good. And, you looked at the schedule. I mean, the schedule, they had a lot of tough games. I will say, though, how they competed down the stretch, that at least, encourages me. But then, of course, then you have all the stuff with Wing Martindale and Brian Dable, and it's just like the falling out of that. I'm just like, I don't know what to expect going into next year. So we'll see how they approach this draft. This is a huge offseason for them if they want to get back to, how they were in Dable's first year. Because I'm tired of them being the punching bag to the Cowboys and the Eagles. I mean, they did, you know, they really did bring it to the Eagles the final week of the regular season because the Eagles had something to play for, and the Giants really stomped them. But you figure the Eagles are going to be better next year. Coordinator stuff was, I mean, the fact that they lost Steichen and Gannon, and then how that impacted their season, especially down the stretch. I mean, we'll see what Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio can do. I mean, I think those guys are upgrades over what they had. Um, but I'm tired of the Giants being the punching bags. I just want to see this team be good again. I feel like the fandom kind of like for me, I'm like the Yankees are like my top team. The Giants are number two, but I feel like that's kind of just like it's like a distant number two because I just feel like my fandom's not what it used to be just because of how bad they've been for so long. But we'll see. I mean, Saquon deserves to go elsewhere where he's going to get paid because he's still got some good years left. And like you said, the injuries have been a problem. But if he can have an injury-freed season, um, I think he could help whoever he ends up with. So it remains to be seen. We'll find out. But yeah, he's probably done with the Giants.
Yeah, I'm looking at some salary cap numbers right now, and a team that is in the top eight that has some room that could probably make an upgrade at the running back position and looking to contend more is the Buccaneers. So I feel like that could be a pretty interesting
Yeah.
fit, helping Baker, assuming that the Buccaneers want to stay in this contention mode,
Yep.
maybe not full on Super Bowl contenders, but if you
Again,
win a
could be another
playoff
playoff
game,
team. Yeah.
yeah, you feel like you can maybe talk yourself into it and continue to build on that success. I feel like Saquon looked pretty cool in a Buccaneers
Yeah.
jersey, so
Yeah. I mean, would be a nice compliment to Rashad White, who had a good season too. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that, but we'll see. I mean, they gotta bring back Baker. Mike Evans, they're gonna try to bring him back too. Um, they have some of their longtime players, even on defense too, that were part of the Super Bowl team that are free agents. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. But TJ, I appreciate you coming on the show today. Again, nice to have somebody else, to be on the show with. It's not just me talking for an hour by myself. Um, Obviously, I'm just playing around with that. But yeah, no, it's nice to have you on. And yeah, talk to you soon. Because obviously, well, we have a production meeting after this, so I'll see you
yeah,
in that.
yeah, definitely. It was fun doing this.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll be working some more together in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I'll try to make an appearance on your show, hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'll preview the Super Bowl, give you my predictions for that, and yeah. So as always, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.